your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to another episode of Book Chats. You can find my blog at shelfaddiction.com. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. This is episode 174. Tonight on Book Chat, it's all about Valentine's Day book recommendations. Joining me today is editor, blogger, and fellow podcaster Sue Brown-Moore. She hosts her own podcast called The Grave Tells Romance Podcast. Be sure to check her out because the second half of our recommendations will be found there on her podcast. There are 10 absolutely awesome recommendations here on the Shelf Addiction podcast, and the remaining 10 plus a few honorable mentions are over on The Grave Tells Romance Podcast. All of Sue's social media links are below in the show notes, so if you'd like to connect, you know where to find her. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and share it. Show your support by rating the podcast and leaving a positive review on Apple Podcasts or your listening app of choice. If you'd like to comment on something you've heard during today's episode, you can find me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. If you'd like to email in feedback or questions, feel free to reach out to me at info@shelfaddiction.com or call in and leave an internet voice message via SpeakPipe or the Anchor app. The links are below in the show notes. Hey, Sue. Welcome back to the show. It's been a while. How are you?
Hi, Tamara. I am fantastic, and I am so excited about talking about romance books. I know that I say that every time, but that's like my life. So, of course, I'm excited about it. But Valentine's Day is this sort of special, weird event, non-event, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so I have kind of mixed feelings about it where I don't want to celebrate it, but I also want to celebrate it because I'm part of the romance world. So we're going to talk about romance books, which just makes me happy in general.
Yes. And, honestly, I like romance books when I think it's appropriate this time of year, not only because it's Valentine's Day, but it's cold outside, and it's like, oh, let me stay in. And actually, this might make you want to cuddle with your significant other, maybe, if it's good.
Maybe some romance.
But, yeah, so it's all good. So, and it doesn't have to be for Valentine's Day, but, in this case, it's in time for Valentine's Day. But, these books are actually good all year long, I think.
I agree. Totally agree.
Awesome. So, everyone, we have 10 picks on this podcast today, and then Sue will have 10 of our picks on her podcast. So after you listen to us here, head on over to Sue's podcast. The links will be in the show notes, and check out what we are sharing there as well. So let's just jump right in. And since you are the guest, Sue, why don't you kick it off?
Sounds good. So I want to start with one that I recently discovered. This author's been out for a while. She's relatively new in Regency. And I haven't historically that's kind of funny to say, historically, Regency. Haha. In the my recent history, I haven't really been a Regency fan. But I sort of rediscovered it. And this author is one of the reasons I'm loving this genre right now. Her name is Anna Harrington. And this book is called As the Devil Dares. Now, I believe it doesn't come out until March, so apologies about that. I get early copies as a reviewer. But the entire series is fantastic. It's in a series called Capturing the Carlyles by Anna Harrington, and it's Regency, and it's that beautiful, heavy on the feels, the glitz of the Regency era. And I like that it's progressive. So everybody in the series, all of the heroines, all of the heroes, they have a progressive mindset. So it's not that typical bodice ripper where, the woman is sort of oppressed and the man has to save her. These are sort of a back and forth, and all of these men are motivated by internal conflicts as opposed to external society conflicts, which I adore.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Good deal. So I assume that you rated this 5 then. Right? 5 out of 5?
Of course. Oh, yeah. Of
course. Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah. I've rated all of these books 5.
Okay. Awesome. Because mine are too. I don't usually read, historical romance or Regency, but that does sound interesting to me. So very cool.
It's anything that can just pull out emotion, right? If it makes me feel something, that's a good book.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you get the highs and lows of the feelings, all the feels. That doesn't happen very often for me. So when it happens, it's like, it takes my breath away.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit with mine because mine is contemporary romance. And this is Still Me by Jojo Moyes. This is the third book in the Me Before You series. I don't know how much further the author is going to go with Louisa's story. And this came out actually a few weeks ago, January 30th, I think it was the release date. And if you guys remember Me Before You, it was the story of Louisa Clark who fell in love with a quadriplegic Will, and then he, spoiler alert, he died at the end.
Oh my goodness.
So it was very sad. It was romantic, but sad. But we follow along in these other books, and now we are in this fresh setting, and Louisa is trying to find herself in New York City with a fresh set of characters, a few favorites from the past, and can she find love in New York? Does she find love in New York? Does she find all these things that she wants so badly? Maybe. But I loved it. It was great. I love the characterization. I love the feeling of New York. I feel like I was in New York. So I got all the New York, happiness and, I was in awe of what this character went through in this book. And it was, I guess, women's fiction as well, but it really is contemporary romance too. So I definitely recommend it. Sue, have you heard of this series?
I have heard of this series, but I have not read it. Although now I know what happens, which doesn't really upset me because romance tends to be a little bit predictable. Not in that way, though. That's not common for the hero to die. But I am super interested, especially in any book where I feel the environment, the setting, where the setting is sort of a character on its own. And New York has so much flavor. So this sounds really interesting. Now, question for you. Can I start the book without reading the previous ones in the series? Is it a standalone?
It is not a standalone, but I think you can read it anyway.
Okay.
Without the others. Like, there may be some things that you might miss, but it's not going to be blaring in the way that you're like, I don't understand what happened.
Okay.
Because, the author does a good job of kind of jogging, snippets of what happened. So it's kind of like in a passive way. She's not info dumping you. So you definitely can start here if you hadn't read the others. And I think it's a really cute story. I mean, long distance love, she comes across someone that reminds her of her first love. It's really cute.
It sounds really cute. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, down to me. So I don't have these in any particular order because I just like them all. So let's see what comes next on my list. Okay, I want to talk about 5 Dares by Eli Easton. Have you ever read anything by Eli Easton?
No, but I did mark this down because I know you recommended it to me like last year and I have not gotten to it yet, but
this one,
I will.
This one, everybody I have recommended it to has said they couldn't put it down. Like, given me sort of like nasty text messages like, girl, I was late for work. I couldn't go to sleep, because it's so good.
You know what? I take it back. I did read it. It's with the 2 guys who have this injury and end up staying together.
Yes, the firecrackers.
Yes, I did read it. I did read it.
Yeah, so the premise is these 2 best friends, Andy Tyler and Jake Masterson, and one of them has a secret crush on the other one, and they go through college, besties, and then they're always doing these pranks, and this college graduation night, they have this last final prank and it's holding firecrackers. They're supposed to throw them before they explode. And of course they don't. So they both have these terrible burns on their hands. So they go to one of them who's a little bit wealthy to his father's cottage and somewhere special, somewhere on the East Coast. And they heal together basically. And during this whole period of them getting better, it's this comedy of errors of them falling in love and figuring out their physical relationship because one of them didn't identify as gay before. So it's just a fantastic, beautiful romance that covers this full spectrum of humanity.
Isn't this kind of like in that subgenre of kind of like that gay for you subgenre? Like, he's not just outright gay, but he likes him.
It depends on how you want to classify it. A lot of people call it out for you because the idea is that the feelings were already there. It's just they didn't admit to them publicly. You could also think of it as pansexual, I guess. So, there's this one person that I am into no matter what their gender is. But yeah, I would say it's gay for you, out for you.
Yeah, it was cute. It was cute. It was kind of like, at some points I was like, oh gosh, this kind of cheesy. And I'm like grinning like an idiot. But I'm like, oh, it's so cute though.
It's so much fun. And it has such a great emotional arc. I just, as an editor, as a reader, as an enthusiast for romance, I just loved it. And even if you're not into gay romance, give it a try because you might like it. You might fall in love with these guys.
Yeah, you might. It's really fun.
Oh my gosh. My cat is making another appearance. Did you hear him?
Oh, no, I didn't hear him, but the audience probably did. So say hi to Sue's cat. Hi, cat.
Bailey says hi, and he's 20 years old. So he's demanding.
Oh, Bailey. It's okay.
Yeah, he can wait a little while.
Okay, so my next one is actually a classic contemporary romance. And I say classic because it's kind of old, but not really old. It's like in the 90s, early 90s it was published. And everyone knows the story from the movie, but I promise you the book was better. And that was The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. You can't let February pass without paying homage to The Notebook. It's so cute.
Are you going to think I'm terrible if I tell you that I haven't read it or seen the movie?
Oh my gosh, it's so touching. Like at the end, I'm not going to give it away, but at the end, now I'm telling you, I have like, people have told me I have ice water in my veins,
Oh,
but
really?
yeah, people have said that. And I don't know why, but I have cried at the end of this book and the movie. I mean, tears, crocodile tears coming down my face. And I'm like, oh, I would love for my marriage to be like that. And it's funny because I asked Kevin, hey, would you do X for me if Y happened to me? And he's like, yeah, no. I said, he's like, yeah, no, but that wouldn't happen. I'm like, okay. You say so. You think I have ice water? He's got ice water, man.
Match made in heaven?
I guess, or something.
Somewhere cold? I don't know.
Probably somewhere cold.
The Nicholas Sparks books and movies have kind of a reputation for their endings. And I've only seen a couple of them, but they are definitely tearjerkers. Like, I totally feel you. I could see it. I would be crying too.
Yeah. And, it's like, it's a note you never can lose, honestly, with one of his books. Oh, I don't know about his most recent ones, but one of the classics, like A Walk to Remember, that one's another tearjerker that's really good. He has a couple that like just win. They just do. So I definitely recommend that.
My romance self really needs to read this book or at least watch the movie. I feel like I'm missing a critical part of my education here.
Yes, and the movie had Rachel McAdams and what's that blonde guy's name that is so hot? Everyone loves him. Oh, I can't think of his name right now. But, oh, well, you guys know who I'm talking about.
I'm going to guess wrong if I guess, so I'm not going to guess.
Oh, no. Oh, I can't even think of his name. Oh, no, Ryan Gosling. Yes, Ryan Gosling.
Yes.
Oh, they're so cute together in that movie.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, where's the chemistry, right?
Exactly.
Okay. What's next? Oh, Bailey, did you hear him that time?
I did hear Bailey.
He's hungry. He has the worst timing ever. It's like every time I sit down to record a podcast, Bailey's hungry, no matter if I just freaking fed him. But anyway, sorry, guys. He's going to be a little chatty. Okay. Let's talk about Avery Flynn's The Negotiator. This is the first in a series by Avery. And she was actually my author of the year, I think in 2016, 2015. It's been a couple of years. But she was my author of the year one of these recent years because she had multiple series come out in one year and they were all just fantastic. And The Negotiator stood out for me because the negotiator is not the hero, it's the heroine. But you don't think that going in. It's a little bit of a spoiler. Sorry, not completely, because once you meet her, you'll realize she's pretty good at negotiation. But he's this workaholic billionaire, and she's this free spirit. And his brother puts out an ad for, like, it's kind of a joke, right? He doesn't know this is going to happen. So his brother is like, okay, this guy's stressed out, and I'm going to help him out. So he puts out an ad for a often snarly workaholic executive seeks someone who can basically be this intercept all of the crap he's dealing with in his life, like his mother, someone to deal with his mother.
Oh my gosh.
So
okay.
Into the office come all of these security types, thinking that he needs somebody who's going to be like a physical block. And then she comes in thinking that she can just organize his life. And she's obviously a great fit. And what comes out of this is this delightfully sexy romp that I remember still, and it's been a couple years. So great banter, great chemistry. It's just fantastic. And it's a CEO billionaire story. So there you go, if you like this.
Oh, that is like one of the crucial must-haves in a romance. Somebody has to be a billionaire. It just has to.
For that subgenre, yes. But not for all of them.
No, but that sounds cool. Well, I have one that's also kind of like, I think the banter is along the same level of that. And it's called Dating You, Hating You by Christina Lauren.
Oh,
and this came out last summer. And that's a writing team. And, honestly, I don't usually read books with more than one author. For some reason, I just never really like them much. But I liked this. And it surprised me, but I really enjoyed it. So it's about this woman and this man. They kind of meet at a friend's Halloween party, and there's obviously sparks, and they go their own ways. And then there's some shakeup at work, and these two companies merge. And lo and behold, they are competitors now working, trying to save their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So so they have similar jobs. Their strengths are different. And now they're kind of dating, but not really, because they don't want to date because they're trying to keep their jobs. And so it's kind of like dating you, hating you. So like on one minute, they really, really are all over each other. And the next they're like pulling pranks on each other. Oh, it's so funny. It's so funny.
It sounds delightful. I want to read it.
It totally is. It's so light and cool. And it's like, I'm telling you, the pranks that these grown adults play on each other, it is just so funny. I'm like, oh, I love when I can laugh out loud.
Another one that made me laugh out loud was Down by Contact by Santino, Hassell. And I believe this is released now. I think it came out last month. And it's a gay romance, first of all. It's sports, gay romance. And I love Santino's voice, first of all. Almost everything he writes I really love. But I love this series in particular because it's sports-based, and I'm not a huge sports fan, but the characters just have so much presence on page. And these two are like rival players. They're well-known rival players, and they get into a fight on the field, which is kind of funny in its own right until one of them gets hurt. And then they end up having to do this joint community service together.
Oh, no.
This amazing conflict of personalities. And of course, they end up being a couple, and there's a little bit of power dynamics in it. Simeon is a kind of a power bottom, whereas Adrian is a top, but he didn't really think he was gay before, so it's kind of another like out for you sort of story. But I loved that the whole feel of this is it just sparkles. The writing is fantastic. The characters stand out. It made me laugh in parts. It made me kind of cry in parts. Oh, it's so good. The whole series is good. There's two. The third one comes out later this year, I think.
How long is this series? So it's 3 coming out, but is 3 the end, or is it more? Do you know?
I don't know. I suspect there's probably going to be more because they have kind of a large cast to pull from. It might end at 3 because I think the hero of the third might be the other one that's kind of prominent in these couple books so far, but they could easily introduce another character in the third that could be a hero. I hope it's fun because I really like it.
Well, I might have to check that one out because, number one, I am a series girl. I love series. So I read it, I just love it. And 2, it sounds interesting. And usually I don't read like sports either. I don't read sports subgenre either, but this sounds interesting to me because it's not all sports.
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, they do have football scenes, which is kind of fun and it gives you a nice flavor of football, but it's not about football.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, if you love football, okay. But, to me, I like that it's not all football. That's still attractive to me.
Well, the two of us, we're recording a podcast during the Super Bowl, so we're clearly not football super fans.
Yeah, clearly we're not. It's so funny. I was actually talking to my co-host for Pop Culture the other day, and we were saying, oh, it's Super Bowl Sunday. And she's like, yeah, I don't even know who's playing. I'm like, well, I do know that, but that's all I know. That's all. I
also don't know who's playing, and I sort of don't care. Yeah, I just don't care.
It doesn't matter. Trust me, it doesn't.
My thought this morning when I woke up was, hey, it's the last football game of the season. Yes. That makes me happy.
It's over. Back to the normal life. Yes. Okay.
Right.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears like drastically and go to one of my favorite genres, which is I love fantasy or paranormal romance or even urban fantasy. They all jumble up in the same ball to me sometimes. And this actually is white. So this is the first one on my list that is young adults. And it is A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas.
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. It's so good. It's fae. All fae.
I love fae stories. This is another one I haven't actually read, but I've heard so much about. In fact, we've talked about this before, and you have recommended it. And I was supposed to read it last year, and I didn't. I really want to. I am still swooning over the second book. Anytime I come across someone who also loves this series, we instantly start fangirling over this one guy. And we're like, we're going to fight to the death for this fictional man. Who's the guy?
Funny.
Who's the character?
Rhysand. Oh,
okay.
Oh, yes. Rhysand. And I belong in the Night Court, which is, where his land is. We all want to be there.
Okay, I'm going to keep my eyes open for Rhysand when I read this, because I need to read this so bad. Like, I have a feeling this series is going to get made into like movies or something. It just sort of seems like it's one of those on track. So yeah, I got to get ahead of it. I have to read it.
It's so good. It's so good. And I know another book is coming out soon. So
it's not over.
Like it started out, I think it's 3 books, but I think then it's evolved. So it's now going beyond that, although there was a clear end to the arc on the 3rd book. So she technically could have left it if she wanted to, but there's more coming because we all love it so much.
Well, that's important. Fan support is important. Yes. I've heard so much about this, and it really is on my list. And I just, you know how it is with the never ending TBR lists, to be read lists. You just, you have 500 things in your TBR and you're like, what's the closest to my hand when I'm picking something up?
I understand. Well, you know what else is so unique about this book, or this series rather, is not only is the one couple just amazing, but they have like serious, like, what do you call it? Squad goals in this book of this series. Like this group of people from the Night Court, they're just an amazing group of friends, and you can see other relationships forming within the group. And it's just, oh wow, I can just see where the possibilities of romance throughout the series is just going to be phenomenal.
I love when the author seeds those future relationships and friendships into the first book, or even the first few books. It really enlivens the story world. It makes it something that you care about and you want to come back to, and you get excited when it releases. You follow the author because you want to hear all the news, and not about the main couple, and also about the main couple, but also not the other ones. And it's just, fantastic. That's a sign of really good writing.
Yeah, indeed. So definitely I recommend that. So, okay. Do we have one more for our list?
We do. We have one more. We're doing great on time. Usually we chat it up. We're doing good today.
We're on mission. We got a mission.
Right? We have 20 books to get through. Okay. 10 here and 10 in the next one. So my last one, I have 2 that are paranormals, because I haven't talked about a paranormal yet. And it's a really good lead in from yours. And which to choose? Okay. I'm going to go with Vampire Queen series by Joey Hill. Part of me was like, I don't know if this is a good Valentine's Day fic, because it's kind of heavy. The whole series is kind of heavy, but it just resonates with me. This series and Joey's writing, she's very introspective. And so when you're reading her stories, you really get deep into the character's psyche, because she writes from that deep place. And so this couple, she's a vampire queen, and he's sort of a protector warrior character who has served her throughout history. Like, he's on his 3rd life now. I'm giving you some spoilers. Sorry. I kind of feel like I have to, because like you don't get a lot in the first book. And if you're not into the introspective thing, you're going to stop. So it's totally worth it. Keep reading. It's scorching hot. There's a lot of BDSM in it. Some things like, I know that you read Frankendom and you weren't totally into Frankendom.
Oh God.
So it's kind of on the level, like, now there's nobody taking anybody's head off and making a head transplant, but which was the sort of the premise of Frankendom. But the weird science aside, it does have all of that sort of advanced BDSM in it, a lot of power play dynamics, but it also it's a beautiful love story that just it stretches across time, and it starts a series that is really, really rich environmentally. So not just vampires, but the fae and the human cultures. It's just beautiful. The whole thing's just beautiful.
Okay. So I love a good vampire story. You know I do. Yes. Okay. But you also kind of know, based on our conversation about that other book, kind of what's too much for me, right?
Yeah. No, Frank and Dom was definitely not for beginners. Frank and Dom is sort of something you read if you already know you like kink and you want the extremes and you just kind of want to revel in it. Not good for somebody who's not sure if they want, and I may have misled you there, so apologies.
Okay, you guys, this might be a little TMI. I am sorry. But you know what? We're all adults here. We are all adults on the Shelf Addiction podcast, and I know this because of analytics. But, I don't mind a little bit of, dominance play, right? We all kind of don't mind it, but sometimes some stuff in that other book was just pushing the limit for me. So would this kind of push me,
Let me ask you, what was it that pushed your limits? Was it that there's a head transplant? Because that was pretty rough for me.
No, I didn't care about that. I don't care about the gore. That didn't bother me at all. The scene that kind of pushed me over the edge was the dog scene.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I don't think Vampire Queen, at least the first two books, which are Jacob and Lissa's books, I don't think those have any pony or puppy play.
Yeah, I cannot stand that shit. I cannot. I'm sorry.
But there are some physical things. Like there's a lot of restraint. There's a lot of voyeurism, like her watching him with other people. So if that bothers you, then maybe not for you. There's sounding in it, which a lot of people haven't heard of, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. Just look it up if you're not sure.
Okay.
Because that's probably may not be appropriate for your audience. But there's some more advanced things in it that if you're averse to kink, you might be like, oh, well, that's a bit much. But if you are a kind of a kinky person, you might be like, oh, bring me more, right? So it just depends on your disposition.
Okay, so I won't add this to my list for now.
But maybe you have some readers who are a little kinky and might enjoy it. We'll see.
Yes, definitely. You guys, if you love that, definitely thank Sue for the recommendation, because y'all not going to get that from me. Sorry.
I think knowing what you thought of Frank and Dom, I loved Frank and Dom, by the way. I think knowing what you thought of it, probably this is not for you, but it's one of my favorites of all time.
Okay. Woo. Okay, so I have one more. I think I just have to find it because I'm all out of sorts now. Because I'm like, I can't. That book just screwed with my head a little.
I know how to throw you off your game. I've got it.
Yeah, you do. I'm like, oh crap! I'm about to start cursing and everything on the podcast.
Definitely not a kinky girl. That's for sure.
No, not to that extent. Okay, so this is another kind of oldie but goodie to me, and I think I've mentioned it before, but this series, it just pulls at all my fangirl strings, and that is the Night Hunter series by Janine Frost.
Oh my God,
I love it.
Oh my God. Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
And Cat and Bones, they kind of have that tug of war. They kind of have that dominance thing going on, especially early on.
They do.
When he's training her and stuff. They kind of have a little bit of that, but that didn't freak me out or anything.
No, that's low level power play. And that's sort of relationship dynamics, that's not, it's nothing serious.
Yeah, it's not BDSM. Well, except that one scene where they were pretty much beating the crap out of each other. I'm like, oh my God.
In New Orleans townhouse?
No, I think they were in the cave. They were in the cave. Okay. And they were they were training, and then the training turned into fighting, and then the fighting turned into okay, let's do this. I'm like, oh snap.
Yes.
That's what's going on.
Oh, that was a good one. And a similar situation happens in book 3 or 4 or 5, something, when they're in New Orleans in the townhouse. They beat the crap out of each other, and then they're like, oh hey.
Hey babe, let's do this. Yes.
I'm so glad you picked this book, because the Night Hunter series, now we should probably be clear that the first book ends on a cliffhanger. So you need to read the first 2 books together. But this series is one of my all-time, of all books, all-time favorite romances.
Me too.
I fell in love with Bones for sure. And I kind of want to be Kat. Like for a long time, I kind of made myself drink gin and tonics because that's her drink. I don't like gin and tonics. But I really try.
I drink vodka tonic. That's pretty close. I'm right there with her. I'm really close.
That tonic. Well, gin is pretty dry anyway, right? And then with the tonic, it's like, oh God. Got to be a real sweet tonic for that. But Bones, he's the ultimate. Okay, the scene in another book where they go to a nightclub and Bones has this like chainmail bottom.
Yes, she's wearing. Yes, oh my God, and she's wearing this dress. Oh God, yes.
I just was like, I want to see this in real life. Oh my God, I need you.
I know he probably looked like really freaky with that on. I'm like, wow, it's like.
But it was sexy in the book.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Look, yes, it was.
And then there's was it 32? Chapter 30? There's like this really famous chapter from one of those early books where she, like her like romantic rival, one of his old, girls is in the house and her ex, like a guy that likes her is in the house. And she's like, let's show them that I'm with you. Oh, you know what I'm talking about? And he just like makes
yes, I do.
All night.
Yes, and everyone could hear them. And
the cops came because they thought he was killing her.
No, they're just having sex. I'm like,
for like the entire night. Yeah.
But I mean, full disclosure, they're both kind of they're inhuman.
That's
so
true.
I mean, they don't take pain like normal people do. So to be thrown up against a wall and stuff with some force, it just didn't hurt anyone. It was like, just go for broke, Well,
and vampires too. Part of what makes the vampire mythology so, to me, interesting and sexy is that it's a reference to penetration, if you think about it, right? So like the bite, what is the bite? What's going on there, right? It's basically a reference to sex.
Yeah.
And this scene, this chapter 32 or 31, I'm a terrible fan for not knowing exactly which chapter it is. It's been a long time. But this particular scene is sort of like the epitome of that because he bites her several times, which makes her feel better,
Yes.
And he tells her, I couldn't do this with a human, a full human, because it would kill them. But she's not fully human. She's half vampire. And sort of he's like, I want to be Kat. I want to be Kat right now.
Oh my God. I remember that. Like he bit her a lot in a lot of places, dude. A lot of places.
But it was sexy. It's like, it's one of those kind of kinky things, but it's sexy,
Yeah, it was sexy. I'm not gonna. Yeah, it was sexy. It was, y'all. So cat bones are not a joke. They are not a joke.
No, they aren't. Their whole series it's kind of brutal. It gets kind of brutal.
And I don't mind the violence. Honestly, I guess that's crazy. I don't mind the violence. I don't mind a little gore. And I don't mind because like I feel like their sex scenes were very hot on the scope of like paranormal romance, but not being classified as erotica. Yeah. I think it's very hot.
Yeah, the language isn't erotic, but the imagery is. And that's a really hard line to ride. So great job, Janine Frost, on not crossing over into erotic territory, which makes some people uncomfortable.
Yeah, totally. Wow. Okay. So, did we blow through 10 recommendations already?
We did in 30 minutes. I'm proud of us.
Yay. Because, we could go on and on about the Night Hunter series. We could talk about that for an hour.
Yes, we could. Oh, Ian.
Oh, yes. Oh, God, Ian. Yes, he's the business, too. He really
is. He's getting his own Vlad. Well, Vlad got his series, and I think Ian's series may have started already. I'm kind of behind on those, but that makes me super happy. I was kind of hoping they would pair Ian up with another character that I'm not going to mention because it's kind of a spoiler, but it's related to Kat. Mm-hmm. I was hoping that would happen because it would have been major drama, but that did not happen.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I love that. I want to reread that. I really love that series.
Me too.
I might do a reread.
Me too.
I might do it.
I keep saying that. I'm like physically, I have like 100 books on my shelf right now that I have to get rid of, and I'm like, maybe not.
I know, I understand. That's going to be like if I actually take a real legit vacation this year. Those will be the books I take.
Oh, the ones on your shelf, like physical books?
No, the Night Hunters. That's what I'll read.
Yeah.
So instead of taking books that are new that I want to read for the blog and all of that stuff. if I actually get to go on a bona fide vacation, I will take my guilty pleasure. I will take The Night Huntress and just read all of that.
It's a comfort read, right? Because you know what's going to happen. You know you love the stories. There's no like bad tension there. It's all like expectation to re-experience what you already know you love. And if you have to, you know, say go to dinner because you have a date on your vacation, then you can just put the book aside and it's not a big deal and you can come back to it. It's an easy comfort, vacation read. I like it.
Absolutely. Okay, you guys. So we are all done. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Sue, for being here. And we know you want to continue listening to us. So hop on over to Sue's podcast. Again, the link is below and you can hear the remaining 10 romance picks that we have here. And yeah, that's it. So until next time, happy reading. Bye, everyone. If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.